woman, adult human female, woman, adult human female, woman, adult human female, woman, adult human female.
Yeah, you know what a chromosome is?
Yes.
Okay, right. So, well, clearly you don't if you're saying that a man can be a woman.
They're not men.
They're women. Okay, and I'm asking you, how did you get to that conclusion? How? How? You're saying you understand biology, but then you're saying men can be women.
They're not men.
So what are they?
They're women.
How are they women if they have a penis? No, how are they? How are they? If you have a penis, how can you be a woman? I can't move.
Lipstick.
Explain it to me. Help me. Educate me. Educate me.
We're not doing credit. You're gonna give me money back.
Excuse me, sir. There's a young man in here. And you're watching
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
I'm sorry.
It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business, okay?
Both of you guys?
Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was a general.
Right beforehand, you said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you, sir.
I apologize. I apologize now.
I need your corporate number because I'm going to call them and talk about how it's misgendered several times in this store.
I apologize for that.
I need your corporate number now.
I can get it for you if you'd like. That's not a problem.
Get it for me now.
I can do that. I'm going to ask you to calm down and stop cussing.
Give me your
Stop
corporate
hitting
number.
destroying property.
Well, I'm going to ask you for the 5th time to stop calling me a man because quite clearly I am not.
And I apologize. I'm sorry for that, ma'am. I will get you that number. Is that okay?
Yes,
I'm
get it
just
for me
asking-
now.
I'm asking you to stop
Get it
cussing.
for me now. I'm not cussing. I'm not cussing. Get me the damn number now, please. Ooh!
Ma'am. Ma'am, I apologize.
Ooh!
I apologize, ma'am. I will get you that number right now.
No, you're just going to keep your gums. You're just going to keep your gums and disrespecting trans people in this store, which I plan on telling the entire LGBTQ community. You're going to lose money over this.
Welcome to my channel. This is Divested Diamonds. You have arrived. In this video, I'm going to be addressing a rising problem that us as Black women need to be paying attention to. Now, I know that we have much to worry about, okay? Everyday life is busy enough without having to worry about toxic external factors that affect us as women. However, pretending things aren't happening doesn't make them go away. As usual, when problematic things happen, the Black female demographic usually gets the brunt of a lot of this low-grade nonsense. Black women as a group keep being disrespected on a daily basis, and once again, if we don't speak up or do anything about it, we will continue to be a permanent underclass. So I would like to bring to your attention trans ideology that is harmful to Black women. We should all be concerned because guess what? We are at the center of this argument. Now, I'm subscribed to many different people whose channels offer a vast amount of eclectic content. In my search for good content, I have also found people that I consider to be allies to Black women. These women fight for the rights of all adult human females, aka women. Now, currently, our very existence is being threatened by a constant wave of transgender ideology whose main concern is to indoctrinate the masses, that includes children and adults, into believing that boundaries, as it pertains to sex-based rights, shouldn't matter because people should feel free to express themselves however they see fit. regardless of facts. I came across the following video a while ago on a channel called Peak Trans. The channel owner and content creator is a British woman named Maria McLachlan. I consider her to be an ally to Black women, and her following video called out a lot of this mess that we as Black women should not be tolerating. Before I show you this video, I just want to say this. Most times, a lot of Black women tend to involve themselves in drama that gets us nowhere as a collective. We are very passionate as a people, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just wish that we could focus a lot of that energy into fighting for things that truly matter to us. I mean, if Black women can take to the streets and get showered with rubber bullets for a bunch of lazy men in the so-called community, we can make major changes for ourselves. Change starts with us. If we don't speak up about our issues, women of other communities, specifically white women who actually do possess a considerable amount of power and influence in comparison to us in this society, can't help raise issues on our behalf because they would assume all is well. I also feel that majority of the time, we shy away from speaking to other women about our grievances because in some of our experiences, nothing ever gets done. So we tend to suffer in silence. We are so used to doing everything ourselves that it's so hard to believe that others would even care about our plight. There are a few women that I have noticed who are inclusive of all women, especially when it comes to gender-based rights. Maria McLachlan is one of those women. Another name that you should look out for is Kelly J. Keene or Posey Parker, right? There used to be another woman who sadly passed away named Madeline Burns. These women, by the way, are all British. And before you ask, how are they changing my life as an American? Social media is a very powerful tool. They speak for women on both sides of the Atlantic. They are doing the work physically in making sure women's rights are not phased out by the introduction of biological males into female spaces. These women have been abused, they've been attacked by trans rights activists who believe that only they have the right to express themselves and not women. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it.
Hi everyone, I'm Maria McLachlan and this is the second video in my series about bad arguments made by trans activists. And in this one, I'm going to talk about all the different kinds of women there are according to those who promote transgender ideology. To start with, I did a bit of research to see how this phrase, kinds of women, is used on social media. Not by trans activists, but by humans. Let's have a look. All kinds of women get raped regardless of their looks. It's pretty clear what this commenter means by that. There are only two kinds of women, beautiful and very beautiful. Oh, charmer, pass me a bucket. Money attracts all kinds of women. Money makes you handsome. Don't bet on it, mate. The point I'm trying to make here, and I know it's an obvious one, is that the phrase kinds of is used colloquially. It's not a scientific way of categorizing people or other animals. It's not used in taxonomic classification. We might use it conversationally to refer to a certain breed of animal, as in what kind of horse is that? A Clydesdale, an Arabian, whatever. When we use it in everyday conversation, we tend to use it to refer to personal traits, as in what kind of person publicly abuses a famous woman for saying that sex is real. I'll leave you to fill in the blank on that one. As you may know, I'm not the kind of woman who suffers fools gladly, and I'm not the kind who forgives and forgets easily. So let's have a look at what other kinds of women there are. Oh yes, there are tall women, black women, straight women, lesbian women, and trans women. What? I see this list, or similar random nonsensical attempts to categorize women, all the time on social media as an attempt to justify the inclusion of trans-identifying men as women. I haven't even put it on my bad arguments page because it's so daft, though I probably will do very soon. And the silliest argument that is made by trans activists goes like this. Trans women are women. The clue is in the name. Well, change the bloody name, it's misleading. Who do you think coined the term trans women in the first place? It wasn't a biologist. By the way, eaten any hot dogs lately? The clue is in the name. Poor doggies. Going back to this list, oh, it's a different but similar list. Seems they're trying to be a bit sneaky here. It's a sort of verbal sleight of hand, lulling us gently into thinking about all the different kinds of women there are before leading us into a massive category error and expecting us not to notice. I mean, seriously, do they think we are stupid? Tall women, that's not a kind of woman. That's just a woman who's tall. Any woman can be tall. Well, except a short woman, obviously. This is like saying big horses, black horses, old horses, pantomime horses. The clue is in the name. Just ridiculous. Now, black women. Black women are the reason I wanted to make this video. It is appalling and sad that one of the worst possible arguments made by cerebrally challenged trans activists is derived from this idea that there are kinds of women. But this particular one, and I do have it on my bad arguments page, by the way, this particular argument only uses black women as a comparator group. They don't even bother with the tall women and the straight women, etc. Here is someone saying, there is no difference between women and trans women for the same reason there's no difference between women and black women. I was mortified when I first saw that. I bet he wouldn't think of saying there's no difference between women and white women. He clearly thinks that white is the norm and that black women are a variation or subset. As for this, black women are not biologically the same as other women. They are still women. It just means that the differences for being black have to be considered as well. I am arguing that the biological differences for being trans doesn't necessarily stop them from being women. I'm not even sure what he means here. And it is a he, of course. What does he think are the biological differences between black women and other women, as he puts it? Is he talking about skin tone and hair texture? These are adaptive traits. Different environmental conditions affect phenotype, but skin tones aren't equal to reproductive systems. A difference in hair texture is not equivalent to the difference between having a penis and having a vagina, and nor for that matter is a difference in height. Black women are female and trans so-called women are male, and that does stop you from being a woman because a woman is an adult human female. That is the only kind of woman there is. Now, as I said before, we use kinds of colloquially to refer to personal traits, and we can use it to compare ourselves to gender stereotypes. I might, for example, say, I'm not the kind of woman who likes to be in the kitchen baking cakes when I could be outside playing football. Imagine I'm 30 years younger. In my youth, that would have been quite remarkable. Not so remarkable these days in an era of women's professional football. That didn't exist when I was young. If I were to say it the other way round, oh, don't like football, would rather be baking cakes, nobody would find that particularly surprising, except my husband, because baking cakes is a traditional womanly pastime. Now, if I had a young grandson in today's climate who said he'd rather bake cakes or play with dolls than play football, chances are that some people would think, could be trans. Gender ideology is regressive. It depends on rigid, backward stereotypes. And it's because of arguments like these that there are kinds of women, or that woman is an umbrella term for crying out loud, that I no longer use the term trans woman unless I'm quoting someone else. I used to be happy to use it because I thought it meant a man who presents as feminine, who perhaps wishes that he'd been born a woman, not that he was claiming to actually be a woman. And certainly a few of the trans people that I'm friendly with do use it like that. None of them claim to actually be women, and of course I wouldn't be friendly with them if they did. But trans cultists have appropriated the word woman, and by sticking the abominable term cis in front of it, they have reduced us, adult human females, to a category of what we are. And if there is one thing that the current tsunami over J.K. Rowling is showing us, it is how normalised the belief that men can actually be women has become. We are being erased as a sex class, and we need to fight back. Right, here's one from Tom Gabion, who's becoming quite notorious on Twitter for being an idiot. If a white woman doesn't consent to a black woman seeing her naked, does she have the right to try and exclude black women from changing rooms? And here's a similar one from some other idiot. This is posed as a question, although he hasn't punctuated it. White women should be forced to share with black women, despite that also making some of them irrationally uncomfortable. So repeatedly we see black women being spoken of as if they are a subset of women, as if they are really just like men in dresses, as if that's a fair analogy. How can they not see the problem with that? And note the word irrationally used here. Of course, racism isn't rational. Of course, it would be irrational to feel uncomfortable sharing a changing room with women just on the grounds that they're of a different heritage or culture. But men like these are seriously suggesting that just because an adult human male identifies as a woman, it is irrational for women to feel uncomfortable stripping off in front of them, even though the vast majority of trans-identifying men are heterosexual and do keep their penises. Here's Gabion again, in response to Helen Staniland, who is awesome, by the way. Try to follow her on Twitter if you're on there. I'm actually saying that you are demonizing trans women with a penis by refusing to undress in an enclosed space with them. I'm not going to go into the whole issue of why some sex segregated spaces matter to us in this video, because I don't want to divert from the reason I decided to make it, which is to call out the crude othering of black women, the analogizing of black people with trans people, and comparing the civil rights movement with the campaign for gender self-identity. Magdalene Burns put it better than I could.
People are just appropriating the struggle of African American people, trivializing it. Several hundred years of slavery and oppression is somehow comparable to misgendering someone. Are you fucking joking me? I have no idea why African Americans aren't raging about this. I'm insulted. I'm not even black and I'm not even American.
I'll link to that video below. Now, I'm not denying that trans people can be victims of horrific violence for being gender non-conforming. Of course they can, as can gay men, as can lesbians. Violent, hateful thugs will use difference as an excuse. And of course there are men who will beat up, rape and kill women just because they're women. Don't even have to be gender non-conforming. But in case you've missed it, the main point of this video, and I know at least one person missed the main point of my first video, what I'm saying here is stop othering black women, stop analogizing prejudice and discrimination against trans people with the oppression of black people. It's racist, it's deeply offensive, and it's a really awful argument. I'll leave you with a few responses from black women to the kind of comments I've shown in this video, and I'll make another one soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Okay, I hope you're still here. Do you feel disrespected enough? So again, black women do have allies. And I would like to thank Maria for calling out this unacceptable behavior. I do want to point out that our loyalty as black women, our inner strength and passion when it comes to supporting others is admirable. However, we need to start reevaluating what it is that we are supporting. Some of you might not agree with me, and that's okay. But I'll say it anyway. Male and female are not interchangeable because it's based on sex and not gender. That's not an opinion, that is a fact. A lot of these biological males who push the narrative that males can be females know absolutely well what they are doing. Some need psychological help, while others require intense psychiatric help. This is not to be disrespectful to anyone, but I will not sit back and allow biological males whose trans ideology is steeped in misogyny to keep telling me that as a black woman, my womanhood is less than simply because they are too intellectually challenged to speak facts. And most times, people such as these will use black people, or in this case, black women, to further their agenda, because if they can subscribe to the emotions of black women, whom they know that regardless of the disrespect being spewed here, will sympathize or empathize with their plight in order for their issues to go viral. The Rainbow Nation has a habit of attaching their agenda to that of the civil rights movement in order to further their goals. This notion that our plight as Black women is somehow comparable to someone, quote unquote, being born in the wrong body is nothing short of disrespectful. It's very short-sighted and gaslighting at best. What we are witnessing here are the oppression Olympics infused with narcissism at a time where 50 years ago, people like this would have been housed in insane asylums, but today they are allowed to roam freely because, well, wokeism. And here's the thing. I don't have a problem with a lot of people in that community. My issue with this community is specifically the T part of it. Ever since they started voicing their opinions and telling the world who they, quote unquote, are, there has been nothing but mayhem. Notice how it's always the ones who identify as women that are problematic. It's never the other way around. And the reason for that is these are still biological males whose views on women still hold internalized misogyny. It doesn't matter how many hormones they take, they still think and act like toxic men. It's extremely disrespectful to think and pontificate that Black women are not biological women. If we are not biological women, what are we? This is very dangerous. Everything that this man said was drenched in male privilege, misogyny, and racism. And to think that this was okay to do is what's scary about this whole thing. I just want you to pay attention to whose rights are being negatively affected in all of this. Women's, right? Because men's rights are still intact. The audacity of it all is unconscionable. You see, I'm all for trans people getting their own spaces because guess what? Women who care about the erosion of sex-based rights do not want you in women's spaces. Unlike Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was too scared to say what a woman is because she is not a quote-unquote biologist.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
I'll say it. A woman is an adult human female. Women do not have penises. We are not chest feeders. We are not breeders. We are not cervix havers. We are not frontal birthers. We are not fish. We are not cis. And yes, we are women. I think it's incredibly dismissive and infuriatingly disrespectful to bulldoze your way into women's spaces and make demands. Who the hell do you think you are? You are not entitled to our bathrooms. You shouldn't be in the same prisons as biological females because it's unsafe for women. If trans women are women, how did this trans person impregnate 2 women in this prison? If trans women are women, why is Leah Thomas walking around in the locker room with his frankenbeans hanging out and making poor young biological females uncomfortable? Women do not have penises, and it's wrong and shameful to suggest otherwise. At the end of the day, we all know what the truth is. So why do we have to play pretend? You have biological males like Karen White, not to be confused with the black R&B singer from the 90s, right? This biological male was jailed for life in the United Kingdom after attacking vulnerable women in female prisons. He admitted to assaulting women in and out of jail. My major issue with this is, why must women always be put in a position to compromise? Why must women always take a back seat to your needs? You preach about respect, but show none of it. You talk a lot about being deleted every single time women tell you that they don't want you anywhere near their spaces, and you respond with extreme aggression. Surprise, surprise. The one thing that you don't want to admit is the fact that people responsible for deleting you are also biological males. And while I wouldn't wish that on anyone, that's not a woman's problem. You need to figure out how you can bring those men to justice. It has nothing to do with women. It has nothing to do with us. And lastly, stop using black women to further your agenda. We are not pawns in whatever it is that you're trying to do. You're the only group in that community whose fight for quote-unquote equal rights impede upon the rights of women. We as women have the right to say no to anything that makes us uncomfortable or puts us in danger. You are so used to getting your way as males, but you have to understand this. No means no. Women have rights too, and sex-based rights are human rights. Create your own spaces. And if me voicing my opinions makes me a TERF, then so be it. So, what are your thoughts on what's been discussed here? Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, ladies, it's okay to fight for us as women, and we need to learn to put ourselves first. Let's not allow other communities to compare our plight to theirs or use us to further their agenda. Thank you so much for watching. This is Divested Diamonds, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Diamonds.